I wonder why this evokes such strong emotions. Music. Fergie, don't even start. All right, I'll have to spend more time discussing this topic again. Hello, everyone. If you've spent even a bit of time on the internet over the past 3 weeks, you've probably come across those very videos where secrets are suddenly revealed, secrets no one suspected before. Mostly, these are about discoveries that are supposed to turn our understanding of the world upside down, like what lies beneath the main pyramids or structures so deep underground that perhaps an entire lost city is located there. There are also similar videos claiming to showcase finds capable, in their opinion, of rewriting history or even disrupting the usual course of events. All these clips are often accompanied by bold statements, as if a unique discovery has been made that will change everything. Such sensational claims, filled with promises of scientific breakthroughs and revolutionary discoveries, appear at every turn. Recently, about a week before I recorded this text, I was awakened by an Instagram feed flooded with identical debates and conspiracy theories, each telling the same story, something completely new to me and, it seems, to most of us. In these videos, they almost identically describe an incredible find that, in their view, will revolutionize science and open new horizons of knowledge, almost as if this discovery will wipe away all existing assumptions. All of this feels like a plot from the third season of a series, involving artificial intelligence, spirals, and mysterious technologies. And of course, it's about the so-called discovery of the so-called Khafre pyramid. This idea spread across the internet so quickly that I was soon personally invited to speak about it on a popular television show, to discuss the possibility that UFOs really visit us, and that governments are hiding this information. Frankly, that sounds quite intriguing. But the question is there even a shred of truth in this? Or is it just the latest wave of popular misinformation that has quickly flooded society? It's noticeable that situations involving such discoveries have long gotten out of control. More and more videos and articles claim that our scientists and authorities are hiding crucial information from us. Recently, this topic has become so popular that it's hard to distinguish genuinely scientific research from dubious theories. It's no coincidence that I previously made short videos discussing such topics in general. Back then, I thought it was important simply to highlight the problem and give a brief explanation to help understand the scale of this information wave. But now, I've decided to prepare a more thorough and definitive part, in which I will try to piece everything together and explain how the situation has developed. I hope that I will no longer have to address this topic after this, because, to be honest, it has become so unpredictable and tangled that understanding where the truth ends and fiction begins is almost impossible. First of all, I want to point out that there are already numerous videos and analytical materials made by my colleagues, which delve much deeper into the essence of the discovery, the technical aspects, and the achievements related to this breakthrough. These materials detail the technologies used for analysis and how the discoveries were made. In this video, I will try to provide only a brief and clear explanation of the situation, what could be called a condensed overview, to ensure nothing is missed and that it is understandable for everyone. The main topic I intend to reveal is the incredibly rapid and widespread spam in the information space generated around this event. It is precisely the scale and distribution of this chaos that evoke amazement and raise numerous questions, from the reality of the discovery to the motives behind its dissemination. Such dynamic situations demonstrate how difficult it is to distinguish actual facts from fiction today, and how relentlessly the flow of both apparent and fantastical theories grows, often even unrelated to science or genuine scientific research. So, after watching this video, I strongly recommend that you clarify additional information for yourself by studying the work of another author, an ancient architect who dedicated a separate study to this topic. His work features a deep and precise analysis of the technical aspects, which I believe is crucial for a complete understanding of the situation. It is also worth paying attention to a wonderful video created by Flint Dibble, in which he discusses with a scientist knowledgeable about satellite data used in this research. These materials are especially valuable because they provide a more detailed understanding of how to work with high-tech images and will help dispel superficial notions. I have included all links to the mentioned videos in the description, so everyone can review them and form their own opinion. Now, moving on to the main point, I will take up my usual task. Over the past week, I have been collecting content, gathering a huge number of short videos from Instagram that evoke genuine surprise and even shock due to their extraordinary craziness. The main idea of this video is to demonstrate how quickly and on what scale disinformation can spread, especially in the modern world, where information is increasing every moment, and fact-checking often takes a back seat. Believe me, many of us, watching these videos, lose part of our clarity of mind, and most likely, all of us together will lose a few brain cells trying to make sense of what is happening. Part 3 of 27. These materials are so crazy that even I didn't dare to watch them in full until the very end, knowing well that I would see everything only once, and ideally right now, on camera, for clarity. But before diving into an explanation, let's briefly clarify the essence of the situation for those who are not yet in the loop. So it goes like this. At the beginning of this month, at a press conference, several scientists announced that they found evidence of 8 cylindrical structures, each 2,000 meters long, beneath the Pyramid of Khafre. This pyramid serves as the central monument among the great Egyptian sites, considered the second tallest and known as the second from the left or second from the right of the main attractions. This is the image most commonly associated with the discovery. It shows long columns extending underground, surrounded by intricate spiral structures. At the bottom are 2 enormous chambers, creating the impression of a grand discovery. Such an image looks very convincing, wouldn't you agree? Once you see it, it's hard to believe that such serious conclusions were made without solid evidence. Its visual presentation inspires confidence, as it's difficult to imagine anyone creating such a technically realistic illustration just for deception. However, it's worth noting that among those supporting the conspiracy theory, this particular visualization is actively used. That is, an image based on certain satellite data collected during the research. But what most people overlook or intentionally ignore is that there exists a much more significant and informative image showing the actual raw data, those very satellite images on which all the claims are based. And it's precisely these images that present the true picture of what's happening, rather than polished illustrations that give the illusion of a scientific breakthrough. Now, let's start with the fact that it's currently quite cold outside, about 40 degrees, which honestly surprised me. I thought spring had already arrived, but instead, there's an unusual coolness. You probably remember my video dedicated to April Fool's jokes, where I share funny stories and various amusing moments. Sorry for mentioning that I left a large container of Vaseline with myself. It just happened to be right here. I admit I'm to blame. Here we are in the photo, behind the whiteboard and next to a 55-gallon barrel filled with Vaseline. I don't know what could have attracted 2 guys there, maybe good weather and free time, but if I had been nearby, I would definitely remember such a scene. On warm, sunny days, it's best to have tissues or handkerchiefs with you, because being outdoors with a huge container of Vaseline can unexpectedly lead to a situation where you need to use them. Imagine, I was outside and the sun's rays gently touched my skin, birds chirped high above, while I was coated with a layer of Vaseline because there was so much of it. Such a scene truly brings a smile, although it probably looks quite strange and not very stylish. And what was I trying to say in general? Yes. Today I will discuss the data obtained from a study and how it is interpreted. These data were actually collected from specialized scientific observations and then converted into certain conclusions, which, to be honest, I have serious doubts about. It cannot be said that the interpretation of the obtained information is always truthful or accurate. Moreover, I would even call it misleading in some cases. The way this information was gathered warrants a separate discussion. We are talking about data obtained through a technology called synthetic aperture radar, or SAR for short. This technology resembles ultrasound imaging, the method commonly used for diagnosing pregnant women or treating internal organs. You probably think, if I need to look for small cavities or hidden structures at depths of several kilometers beneath the Great Pyramid or inside the tallest building, for example, Burj Khalifa, the tallest structure on the planet, would I use ultrasound? You are absolutely right. Because SAR technology, compared to ultrasound, is completely unsuitable for penetrating solid rock or conducting deep scans of the Earth. It simply lacks sufficient penetrating ability. However, it is worth emphasizing. The researchers working with these data do not claim to be using ground-penetrating radars or deep Earth penetrating sensors. They more likely combine satellite data, using SAR and another method called Doppler tomography. Based on that, they stated that by analyzing these two types of information together, they did not directly study soil or boreholes within the Earth. Instead, they claimed to analyze micro-movements in the Earth's crust caused by various underground processes, trying to infer the shapes of objects beneath the surface from these observations. For more in-depth and technical information, I recommend watching a video by Flint, where he discusses these technologies with a specialist. I am not an expert in ground radars or sonars myself. All of this comes from satellite observations. The data was collected from a satellite approximately 680 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and then interpreted into certain images or diagrams. These images and graphs, created based on satellite data, form the basis for further conclusions. It is important to understand, the information obtained is not a direct snapshot or an exact image of the volumetric structures inside the Earth. Rather, these are transformed indicators that are interpreted as possible shapes beneath the surface. As a result, we have the following. The initial data are the results of complex geophysical measurements, and the conclusions drawn from them often raise questions and require a critical approach. Let me rework this text to make it more fluid, detailed, and slightly expanded, while maintaining its main meaning and sequence. I will try to make it pleasant to listen to and easy to read, suitable for narration. Here is the result. I believe that it is worth increasing the number of high-orbit ultrasonic investigations conducted from spacecraft orbiting at significantly higher altitudes above the Earth. I think this approach could open up a very promising niche that might bring good profit. However, these data have never been published. They were discussed at two separate press conferences. One of them was organized under the leadership of a former participant of the so-called, what was it called again? Ah, yes, InfoWars. Honestly, I'm even glad I forgot that word. I would be happy to erase that memory and never encounter that name again. So I can handle that easily. By the way, I want to briefly interrupt and warn you. Later in this video, I will change roles and adopt a different persona. Though honestly, I don't really want to distract you from the main message. I just wanted to prepare you for the upcoming moments, and yes, I'm joking. I'm here anyway because during the export of the latest footage, I noticed a problem. The camera's autofocus was not working correctly. It thought it needed to focus on my computer instead of me. It turned out that the reason was that my camera was not set to face autofocus mode, but was in a mode that autofocused on objects or animals, so-called pet autofocus. This doesn't fully explain why it focused on my computer, but who really knows what's going on inside their devices? In any case, I fixed it all. Nice, may I just go back and re-record everything? Of course not. My entire team and I have already spent too much time and effort on this silly theory. Therefore, I prefer to spend my time creating videos about truly important and interesting topics, those that have at least some evidence backing them. For example, my next project will be dedicated to mysterious octagonal Earth structures, and I hope it will be ready soon. This site is striking in its architectural precision and astronomical alignments. It features exact lines and right angles, creating the feeling of a bridge between us and the ancient cosmos of the indigenous peoples of North America. In the picture, it looks very impressive. All 8 points, the hexagon, and the lines arranged in strict sequence. One could say that this is not just an architectural structure, but a kind of microcosm, reflecting the grand system of beliefs and worldview of those ancient civilizations. In terms of accuracy and harmony, this earthen architecture reminded us of the advanced knowledge our ancestors possessed in astronomy and geometry. The most astonishing thing is that all these lines and patterns form perfectly calibrated connections, as if embedded into the very fabric of nature. You could say they create a sort of map or symbol, reflecting cosmic order and harmony. An example of this precision is the arrangement of lines and objects that coincide with astronomical phenomena and seasonal star movements. All of this indicates that the creators of this structure had deep knowledge of celestial bodies and time. Thanks to such discoveries, we can understand that these sites truly held sacred significance and served not only ritual purposes, but also represented the laws of the cosmos. That is the kind of meaningful topic I plan to explore and present in upcoming releases. Also, I believe it is very important to emphasize that such findings help us understand our history and the legacy of our ancestors, showcasing their level of development and awareness. So stay with us, and soon you will see more details in our new video. For now, I will pass the word onward, and thank you for your attention. I hope you find this material interesting and see you again. One of the participants in this press conference, it seems, was a person previously associated with InfoWars, an entity whose credibility and authority can hardly be considered high. Unfortunately, this point has been widely circulated and was even picked up directly by the InfoWars website itself, and then propagated by the popular podcast Joe Rogan Experience. As a result, it turned into fodder for those seeking sensational stories, and many botanists and bros, rough guys with microphones, began to repeat and pass along the story with a hefty dose of irony, trying to create the illusion of the importance of this news. Based on what I can say myself, I have no solid, verified data. This story has quickly become one of the most discussed archaeological topics of the current year. Regarding the sources of this information, it should be emphasized that the experts providing these details are not particularly reputable. For example, one of them, Armando Mai, is a self-proclaimed Egyptologist, which, as we have discussed before, probably means he has not received formal education but simply spent a lot of time reading books that often contain conspiracy theories about ancient Egypt. At the press conference held on March 16th, he suggested that the objects found inside or near the pyramids could indicate an age of 36,000 years, and he actively advocates ideas related to astronomical coincidences and alignments of these structures. But how you will respond to this remains an open question. As for the leader of the research team, his reputation is considerably higher, since he is a publicist and author of several books. His name is Corrado Malagana, and he has published several works, some of which have gained particular recognition. However, I do not want to claim that having published books automatically makes him more authoritative, nor do I believe that this should disqualify the possibility of research. At the same time, such facts do not add weight to his claims, nor help to build trust. This is one of the main issues I see in this story. I fully support the idea of further studying this situation. Sorry, I've already mentioned this in my interview with Piers Morgan, and I will say it again now. I believe that the presence of an anomaly beneath the pyramid truly deserves close scientific attention. Additional research is necessary to clarify the nature of this phenomenon, and to improve the technologies on which such discoveries are based, such as the supposed devices or methods in question. However, it's also important to note how manipulative it appears, that all this data was presented to the public in a highly selective manner, literally bypassing scientific journals or serious scientific publications. All of it was immediately relayed through one of the largest and most widely consumed information sources in the world. Such actions create the impression that information is being distorted and presented as sensational news, which significantly undermines trust and gives the feeling that these are more about speculation and provocations rather than genuine scientific discoveries. Some Joe Rogan fans, when discussing mainstream media, then claim that his podcast is the most listened to in the world. Do you not see a contradiction in these statements? Or perhaps you simply do not notice it. Anyway, I will not dwell on this. Discussions about the possible properties of what is depicted include a wide range of theories, from claims that these structures serve as supporting frameworks to assumptions that they are a giant system for generating electricity. Most of these hypotheses contain numerous errors, because it is almost impossible for such objects to be man-made. Firstly, the location of these structures is very deep, below the water-bearing layer, and it would be impossible with any technological means of that time or even modern tech to place them there. Secondly, such structures are usually built on a solid foundation, on limestone host rock, not near water level or soil. How could something like this be built on solidified limestone bedrock? And why are supporting structures even necessary if the foundations are already strong? It is also clear that we lack any context that could help us understand such findings and make sense of them. If we had discovered numerous similar structures beneath the pyramids, or found evidence of smaller buildings, or if these structures resembled something similar that had already been encountered in other regions of Egypt, then we could be interested and begin an investigation. But in this case, nothing of the sort. We are simply observing something that completely lacks context. Honestly, turning this sonar scan into some sort of mysterious structure is laughable. It's akin to entering your living room with a thermal camera and noticing a warm spot on the wall, then concluding that an elf family lives inside, hiding within the walls. Of course, I am exaggerating a bit, but the situation is similar. It's like a Schrodinger's puzzle. No one, and importantly, no one claiming to know, actually knows what this is. This information hasn't undergone scientific review or professional verification. I reiterated this in my short video. This discovery has not been published in scientific journals and has not gone through the peer review process. While the lack of formal validation does not necessarily disprove the hypothesis, it is the main reason to approach such claims with skepticism and not take them at face value, as most conspiracy theory supporters tend to do. Now, I want to show some leniency and be more forgiving towards this research and its authors. Although I remain somewhat skeptical about their motives and potential hidden biases, I cannot consider this work entirely insignificant or useless. At this moment, I am temporarily setting aside the core content of the research concerning the pyramid itself and turning to how exactly this mysterious structure was studied, namely, the technology used, because in my opinion, this is what draws the most attention. I support the initiative of the researchers to continue their work, bring it to the publication stage, and undergo peer review, because I believe this approach holds the potential to uncover truly interesting and significant scientific facts. Perhaps by improving the methods used in their technology, they could achieve astonishing results. Imagine if we could reliably utilize satellite systems in high Earth orbits to analyze minute movements of the Earth's surface, which could in turn help discover hidden underground chambers and voids. Such a breakthrough could become truly revolutionary in geological exploration and the search for underground storage facilities. What would I advise researchers if they were to undergo peer review by a qualified team of specialists? First and foremost, I would like to see convincing evidence of how exactly the technology they employ works. This would require conducting a series of tests in areas with well-documented underground cavities and cave systems. Such verification could confirm or refute the method's effectiveness by comparing satellite data obtained with already known information about well-studied regions. In the scientific approach, there is always a principle, moving from known facts to new discoveries. Currently, we have very little data, and everything beyond established facts remains solely in the realm of assumptions and speculation. Another question I encountered while studying this topic concerns the presence of underground voids beneath the pyramid itself, not in terms of artificial structures, but simply due to the composition of the limestone from which it was built, which by definition contains voids and cavities. Natural caverns and hollows in limestone are quite common. However, interestingly, these naturally occurring voids apparently did not manifest when using the technology in question. As for the source of this information, I do not have specific references or confirming links, as these are rather our accidental findings and reflections that arose during general research. I have not conducted a thorough verification of these data, but I believe that this is precisely why research in this area requires significantly deeper development and clarification. It is important that scientists and specialists focus on this direction before claiming any truly groundbreaking discovery in archaeology. In my view, there is currently some hasty movement where ideas and assumptions outpace facts and evidence, as if attempting to present hypotheses as definitive truths. One could say that the team of researchers is presenting material as though they have already made the most important discovery, although in reality they are still far from it. Surprisingly, most leading figures in the so-called alternative history community hold roughly the same view. Even the two alternative history specialists who recently joined my conversation with Piers Morgan fully agreed that the object is currently at too early a stage of study. They emphasize that more time and research are needed before drawing final conclusions. In this context, any claims by people insisting they understand exactly what is depicted in this new data are completely false and misleading. Frankly, such assertions are often saturated with overconfidence and not supported by real knowledge. Part 10 of 27. Those who claim that what was discovered is, for example, some kind of structure for energy generation, or that it is definitely an ancient mechanical device, are most likely motivated by a desire to profit from it, using sensationalism to attract attention. It can be said that these people, often labeled as provocateurs or attention seekers, are simply frauds who do not understand what they are talking about. Their statements often amount to nothing more than informational noise, without any real foundation. For those who still believe that these noise signals clearly indicate the presence of some hidden mechanism inside the pyramids, I would say one thing: it's essentially just an ink blot test. All that is needed is to look at this data and, guided by one's own preconceived notions or expectations, see exactly what one wants to see. In reality, I tend to think that this is a structure for energy production, not just random noise. Perhaps it is part of a lost city, or a place mentioned in the famous Emerald Tablets. Maybe these are the legendary halls of Ai, described in ancient Egyptian mythology. I believe that these tablets are more like a giant mysterious artifact, perhaps resembling, let's say, a huge, ornate, large gummy slice, though you cannot find a precise analogy here. Once these hypotheses started to spread actively, nearly all popular channels and conspiracy sites quickly picked them up and began discussing them. The entire flow of information was filled with opinions and speculations, which only fueled the excitement and raised further questions about the nature of the discovery. The most shocking and striking aspect of this story for me is the fact that I saw real accounts dedicated to popularizing science discussing this topic. And these were the very reputable sources I trust and follow, which consider themselves professional and honest in their statements. Although such scientific sources tried to emphasize as clearly as possible that this theory is not confirmed by peer-reviewed research, they still used expressions like, "It resembles a structure for energy production," or something similar. The comments that immediately appeared under such posts often confirmed that people took it literally. "See, I told you, this really is a structure for obtaining energy." At the same time, many other comments, almost without restraint, pointed out the flaws in such claims, openly criticizing the authors for carelessness and scientific dishonesty. I vividly remember one particular case where the entire discussion ended with the author deleting their post, and rightly so. It's not worth spreading false information. I was deeply struck by how people who genuinely strive for honesty and accuracy in scientific communication sometimes use phrases like structure for energy production, as if that is a trustworthy term. And what's especially surprising is that those who see this as a promising technology don't care at all about scientific integrity. They won't say, "It may be a structure for energy, but there's no confirmation in scientific papers, so we shouldn't jump to conclusions." No, they simply hear the words structure for energy production and immediately start spreading it further, as if it's an axiom. They pass this falsehood along to the next person, creating a dirty and endless chain. Therefore, I ask you, for everyone involved in scientific communication, please pay attention and warn such authors. Don't spread this nonsense. Do so politely and respectfully. There's no need for harassment or insults. Just remind them that using unverified and dangerous terms like structure for energy production leads nowhere good. And since I see more and more of these empty theories, resembling plots from InfoWars or similar sources, being discussed by real scientific channels, it truly raises concern. It would be great if, before creating such videos, authors did at least a 5-minute internet search to determine whether this idea is truly worth attention. In the end, I can provide a brief overview of the entire situation, share my thoughts and perspectives. But now, the most intriguing part is how the most absurd conspiracy theories sometimes so ridiculous that they could be compared to human hypothermipism, form something like a human centrifuge. Understanding where it will end is very difficult. I don't favor this analogy, which has probably sparked a conspiracy theory that will be discussed for many years to come. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, with great regret, I must delve into the depths of some of the most disgusting videos you've ever seen. Oh my god, he's back in another costume. And now he's chosen a different outfit again. Maybe it's not the best way to showcase this shirt, but you know what? That's how I'll do it. As a result, I look like a teenager who just came back from summer camp, the kind that happen all the time. I also want to inform you that we now have a second t-shirt featuring a tarot card design. Yes, this one is a separate model. It was created as part of a video dedicated to April Fool's Day, but I decided to show it here as well, for those of you who haven't seen it before. It features a small, cute icon, an image of me, and honestly, it looks much better when it's not worn over an ordinary shirt. The full design of the card symbols is now available for order. You can purchase it as a t-shirt or a hoodie. Each of these options is available in 3 colors, light, black, and green, so there is a choice, and everyone can find something to suit their taste. If you want to support our project and help the channel grow, you will find all the necessary details via the link in the description of this video. I would also like to quickly mention that perhaps I have never provided an update on the fundraising campaign we organized to help the city of Asheville after Hurricane Helene. I'm sure many of you remember the charity event we held as part of the Halloween video. There was a t-shirt with a vampire image. I am thrilled to announce that we have raised a sum exceeding $8,000. This is truly an incredible amount, and all the proceeds will go to a charitable organization that has long been working in Asheville. Thanks to these efforts, aid will continue to be provided even when organizations like the Red Cross or FEMA are no longer present. Therefore, I can confidently say that every dollar invested will genuinely help people facing the long-term consequences of the hurricane's destruction. I sincerely want to express my personal gratitude. Firstly, my partner and I are very closely connected to Asheville because this place means a lot to us. This area is especially dear to our hearts, and it is important for us to see how people come together and take meaningful actions. Among my acquaintances, there is one of my editors who also lives there, and witnessing how many people gather with a common goal to improve the situation, that simply fills me with joy and pride. These moments make my heart beat warmly, and I feel that I truly shine with inner satisfaction. From the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you for your immense support, participation, and the help you provided. It is thanks to you that all of this became possible. I want you to know, your actions can genuinely change lives, and your kind heart can leave a noticeable impact. In the description of this video, you will find an update and additional information, including a full sweatshirt. Now, let's get back to the main content. I promised you that changing the hat is part of the show, and you shouldn't look so surprised. And now comes the very part you might have been waiting for, the moment when I share with you a selection of crazy Instagram reels I've been collecting over the past few days. Once again, I want to emphasize, I understand that my preliminary preparation and research on this topic may have been insufficiently in-depth. Unfortunately, all the press conference materials were presented entirely in Italian. As you can see, I have fully adapted to life in the United States, and now I can proudly say that I speak only one language, English. But if you want to understand more deeply and grasp the true meaning of what is happening, I highly recommend that you watch some video materials prepared by my colleagues. They have produced excellent analyses and commentaries. Moreover, I forgot to mention another very important resource. There is a wonderful video by a YouTuber named Metatron, who is from Italy and attended the entire press conference, managing to highlight the most essential and interesting moments, making his analysis especially valuable. I strongly suggest you watch it. The link to this video will be in the description. Thank you, Metatron. This is truly an excellent job. Well then, let's get to the point. I have a folder with these videos, which I have already saved there for convenience. First, I open the reels, and what do you think? The very first video that appears on the screen is astonishing in terms of complexity and engineering solutions, far more incredible than we could have imagined. You see, lately everyone has been discussing the pyramids, as if they are the only thing on their mind. I'm talking about those very great structures that have captivated scientists and researchers for centuries. I would very much like this topic to achieve the same status as the official confirmation of discoveries, a kind of stamp that signifies the authenticity and significance of new findings. This is exactly what I'm waiting for, because all the information that is being uncovered should be supported by truly substantial evidence. And honestly, everything currently published rather causes widespread confusion than confidence, because the image they display is far from what it seems to be in reality. It is not a real photograph, but an artificially created picture made using artificial intelligence, then refined with photo editing. The level of this illusion is so high that it is almost impossible to distinguish it from reality, as it differs greatly from the real view. The diagram shown is an accurate scaled image, which immediately indicates how serious these discoveries are. However, what unfolds further is sheer madness. Imagine, it is nothing more than fan art reflecting the incredible nature of the find, although no one has actually confirmed it yet. When such things are presented, it becomes clear that the content truly deserves attention, because usually in such cases, scientists publish real photographs or video footage demonstrating the discovery. But this time, since it was more about preliminary investigations, all that was available to the general public were AI-compiled videos with mysterious sound effects, creating an atmosphere of mysticism and uncertainty. The tallest pyramid is the Khafre pyramid, built to a height of 471 feet. And this idea seems so incredible that it's hard to believe its veracity. Nonetheless, these discoveries evoke admiration and wonder in most people. Have you seen how quickly the actual investigation was demonstrated? It was so fast that it's even hard to tell exactly which video was being shown on the screen. You could ask the editors to time it with a stopwatch to see how many seconds it took, in order to understand how instantaneously this information was presented to viewers. And here, the most astonishing moments begin. If you look at the map or scale from a distance, it becomes clear how vast these discoveries are. This raises many questions and suppositions. Another topic that was actively discussed online earlier was memes about obelisks placed beneath the pyramids themselves. There were many such images, and they were widely debated before this discovery. Now, after everything that has happened, these topics seem even more remarkable. Increasingly, one can encounter conspiracy theories claiming that the obelisks and pyramids are connected and supposedly hide something significant. Until now, I had never seen ideas presented so vividly and so densely filled with symbols. The animation and visual effects used are simply astonishing with their provocative and even slightly indecent expressiveness. The scale of engineering craftsmanship, what we observe, is something only the highest geniuses of their era could achieve. The entire scale, the constructions, their complexity and precision are truly remarkable. And perhaps over time, we will learn more than we do now. Who knows? Honestly, I have a lot of respect for the person creating such videos, because he clearly isn't trying to hide that he is not entirely sure of what he's saying. His ending conveys a sincere attitude, honesty, and a desire to uncover the truth. Maybe in time, everything will become clear, and we will find out what really is happening behind these mysterious events. For now, we can only watch how the situation develops and hope that someday someone will provide answers to these mysteries. So until then, may this person succeed, because after all, everyone should have the opportunity to believe in the best and expect the discovery of the truth. Honestly, over time, maybe we will learn a lot more about some things. Although in this case, the word more is probably an interesting substitute for anything or whatever. I wonder why my father follows this account. Dad, my brother. What the heck? Why is he even doing this? I really like how this guy presents his ideas. Listen again to that very introductory part. I honestly didn't even notice when it first passed me by. We are becoming more and more amazed, pushing the limits of our capabilities, because essentially we are talking about such engineering genius that previously was beyond dreams. I mean, pyramids, and nothing else. Now it seems like everything is becoming wild and incredible. And this person, it seems, couldn't care less. He just speaks openly, without any embarrassment. When you start thinking about it, it becomes utterly crazy. Why does this happen? The pyramids, their mysterious structures, all of this seems so unresolved, and yet it also seems like something similar could be invented even today. When I decide to write a PhD or master's thesis in the future, I will definitely create my final presentation in a similar style, because it's so vivid, so memorable. In general, friends, everything I heard or saw here is probably one of the most revolutionary and significant ideas in recent times. Although, who knows? Maybe in the future, we'll learn even more about it. And who really cares about all this? Well, we'll see. By the way, I wonder if something similar will seem familiar to you now. Right after this, another similar video will appear in my recommendations, right? So, it can be said that the education system in the USA doesn't provide us with everything we need. Yes, that's true. The curriculum clearly doesn't cover everything it should. Imagine, right now they are dismantling the education system before everyone's eyes. And the situation will only get worse. Books about slavery, significant historical events, great civilizations are increasingly being banned, and most valuable knowledge, in fact, remains outside of school programs. Just so they don't have to tell us the truth outright, while still boasting about great civilizations that supposedly exist. It also seems that their education system deliberately avoids discussing shady, dirty conspiracies or conspiracy theories. Almost everything truly important is now taught to us by the internet, not school, especially TikTok. That's where we learn more in a short amount of time than in an entire school course. And overall, it's becoming clearer day by day. We are so prepared that we're simply losing ourselves. When were you planning to tell me that the same mysterious pyramids are scattered all around the world? For example, the Lake Pyramids, a lake in California. People often talk about discoveries in the Grand Canyon, as if there are ancient pyramids and artifacts similar to those found in Africa. But in reality, the name Pyramid Lake doesn't mean that a real giant pyramid is hidden inside it. As for the carved lines on the sides of the mountain, these artificial cuts were made using modern construction machines, nothing more. They have nothing to do with ancient structures. I don't even intend to say that these are pyramids located in the heart of the Grand Canyon. These ideas are just part of myths, and I prefer to focus on lake pyramids in California. Over years of watching similar videos, I have absorbed much more information from TikTok than I ever could in school. These short clips seem to tell me everything I need to know. And now I've decided to get to the main point of this video because I keep facing the same question. Does anything truly trustworthy even exist? Sometimes I feel that everything boils down to a simple question. Is the camera spinning in circles, or are the creators trying to hide the real facts somehow? And if the music accompanying these videos sounded better and more solid, I wonder how much time it would take me to realize that nothing new is going to happen. Perhaps this is exactly how I express the problem I've been facing for a long time. The thing is, conspiracy theories often rely on the same element, the images and interpretations they present as the ultimate proof. Usually they show just one photograph or video clip featuring a pyramid, and seasoned supporters of these theories say, "That's enough. It all looks convincing." For centuries, the Great Pyramid of Giza has towered above the desert sands, remaining a symbol of mystery and ancient secrets. Meanwhile, I find myself again watching another video on the same subject and realize that the recommendation algorithms still only suggest similar materials. My entire virtual experience reduces to being constantly offered conspiracy versions that claim to reveal the secrets of the pyramids, as if these structures embody eternal puzzles of human history that disprove the normal understanding of history. They have stood for so many years, preserving their secrets, as if guarding ancient knowledge within stone walls. And it's strange to see how some people look at this, and without a shadow of doubt declare, "This is science for sure." How can one so easily accept as fact what is often merely an illusion or distorted interpretation? I want to highlight the difference between scientists who genuinely work on uncovering these ancient secrets and those who simply manage to piece everything together into a chain of unconvincing theories as if part of a grotesque, hideous human monster. the so-called anthropocentroid. In scientific circles, real research is conducted based on facts and evidence, whereas on the internet, all this work often turns into a circus, where the spectacle is distorted into a show of ignorant fantasies. That is why it's important to be able to distinguish serious scientific approaches from streams of unverified, often completely useless assumptions that only hinder real progress. Despite my own doubts about how researchers have presented this information, my main issue still relates to the concept of the human centrifuge, which, in my opinion, raises many questions and even humorous associations. It's obvious that conspiracy theorists usually cling to the most sensational and unfounded data without considering scientific honesty or logic. They often ignore even basic facts, summaries, and a professional view of the problem. For example, the popular idea that pyramids are constructions on the surface built for venerating the dead is a simplification and distortion of their true purpose. In fact, these monumental structures served more as massive anchors or obelisks designed to hold and seal away something ancient and incredibly powerful, hidden inside or beneath them. This idea gives the impression that these pyramids are not just tombs, but something much more mysterious and significant. I literally cannot listen to those who speak about them in a childlike way, insisting that there are some secret chambers or rooms underground. In reality, there are recently discovered chambers linked by ancient texts called the Propostile Mausoleum, or the Abyssal Vault. According to the forbidden section of the Book of Thoth, which was translated only once and is considered a taboo page, there is evidence of some secret chambers forming a mysterious storage, something mentioned in ancient myths. This is very strange and raises many questions. Sometimes it seems that all of this is connected to pseudo-scientific theories similar to the style of Billy Carson or other creators of pseudo-documentaries. Announcements about emerald tablets, supposedly describing a lost city beneath the pyramid, are just part of this wave of unfounded assumptions. As for sources, some people speak about them based on information obtained from artificial intelligence, for example, from ChatGPT. I didn't even need to read a description because it told me itself. I'm not joking. This is how I was informed, as if this machine knows secrets inaccessible to ordinary people. All of this seems so absurd and comically unserious. Recounting such discoveries from supposed secret documents is like diving into the silly genre of pseudo-documentaries, similar to Billy Carson's work. They talk about some lost cities supposedly located beneath the pyramids, often referencing mysterious green tablets and ancient manuscripts that no one has seen or can verify. Overall, all this looks very much like artificially created mythology designed to impress the imagination, but lacking any factual basis. When I browse various sources and videos, many have long since debunked such misconceptions. There is no evidence of megastructures or secret labyrinths beneath the pyramids. It's only about strange, unstable cavities or air pockets inside them. In reality, it comes down to features of their construction and natural voids, which can be easily explained scientifically. Honestly, how can one take seriously information spread through poor quality images and false claims made for sensationalism, especially when these images are often forged or heavily altered? Frankly, I believe such materials are more about attracting attention and sparking interest rather than being a reliable source of knowledge. And often such statements are made by people who don't have many followers. For example, this particular page has only about 3,000 followers. All of this provokes smirks and skepticism. After all, counterfeits, exaggerated conclusions, and unfounded theories are easily recognized by those who have at least a little understanding of archaeology and science. One can only hope that, over time, people will learn to distinguish real discoveries from fictional fantasies and will not trust rumors and unverified claims spread carelessly and thoughtlessly. I'm not going to name specific names, but the essence is roughly as follows. There's a page that publishes so-called facts, interesting, surprising pieces of information, creating the impression that it's simply a collection of fascinating facts. When such posts appear in the feed without any additional information or context, the viewer's attention often narrows down to one thought. What's so special about this? It's probably just a fact, since it's on such a page. Why not? This formulation becomes a common explanation for such news, which raises certain questions, because often serious problems lie behind these publications. The main issue is that pages promoting conspiracy theories deliberately omit crucial details that could help people understand what is being discussed. They manipulate the audience, misleading it, while hiding information that would clarify whether the data is verified or not. Most people who see these messages are likely to believe in their truthfulness because key details that provoke doubt or indicate unreliability are kept hidden from them. If they were provided with the full picture or appropriate explanations, most still wouldn't believe, because the real reason is that they are not shown actual facts. For example, I am amazed by archaeological news, which is often presented in very unusual ways. Recently, I came across an Instagram account called Dirt Diaries, and I want to note, I really like it. I have encountered their posts before. They are high quality and informative. When the latest update from this account appeared in my feed, I noticed it followed a series of posts from various scientific pages and accounts that often claimed that the researched objects or structures were not peer-reviewed, yet at the same time speculated that, say, some ancient construction could be related to energy production. And I thought, is this going to happen again? The thing I can't stand? Luckily, the creator of this account didn't let me down. She posted an excellent video, clearly showing that it's just a set of assumptions, often based on unsubstantiated guesses. This girl's an archaeologist and she deserves support. Follow her on Instagram. I also want to give a small piece of advice to those interested in popularizing science. Notice her effective technique, the phrase, "You won't believe these archaeological news because they are false." It's a powerful hook. The entire flow of falsifications is built on the idea that most messages are fakes. Playing on feelings of mystery, uncertainty, and surprise is a very strong motivator for attracting attention. This method is used in various fields, especially when it comes to new discoveries that may, in fact, be lies. Recently, information emerged about a mysterious structure supposedly located beneath a pyramid in a Khafre. Naturally, such news arouses great public interest and provides numerous grounds for conspiracy theories. But what should be emphasized is that such messages often include phrases like possibly, might be, leaving room for doubt, and avoiding responsibility for the accuracy of the information. That is how those engaged in spreading these news operate. By adding uncertainty, they create the illusion of credibility. The most important thing is that such materials often do not even pass minimal scrutiny within scientific circles. Yet, despite this, they continue to spread because they are presented in an attractive package that piques viewers' curiosity. By using elements of doubt and ambiguity, these authors successfully circumvent fact-checking, implanting false ideas. This is a well-known technique because ultimately, the main goal is to leave the audience with the impression that it is truly important and mysterious, even if it is all just fiction. I believe that beneath the ancient pyramids built by aliens, there is a powerful energy source or power station. And when someone tries to challenge this by saying, wait, relying solely on a hypothetical scenario to support my assumptions doesn't seem justified, there arises an implicit feeling that there is insufficient verification or analysis. After all, talking only about the possibility of the existence of some mysterious structure is not proof, and it's unreasonable to think that everything around is just fiction or fantasy. However, the idea that structures and pylons extending under the pyramids to depths of up to 2 kilometers, contrary to expectations, exceed anything even the boldest scientists could imagine, seems incredible. A year and 1 month ago, I published materials describing the mysterious encryption of Leonardo da Vinci's work related to the Khafre pyramid. In these studies, I demonstrated how the internal structures, their shape, size, and angles, correspond identically to the internal structure of the pyramid itself. For example, the angle of inclination, exactly 53 degrees, repeated in both systems. What if we decided to investigate more closely? Perhaps it was precisely Da Vinci who discovered secret knowledge there, such as emerald tablets hidden beneath one of the ancient pyramids. Honestly, it's hard for me to say for sure. Maybe this is part of the true mystery, or perhaps it's just a hypothesis. Anyway, it would be good to investigate. Who knows? By the way, one should ask, where are the devices that transmitted energy in antiquity? And where are those mechanisms or machines that use this energy for their purposes? Why do we still have not a single archaeological find indicating the existence of such mechanisms? I know that conspiracy theory enthusiasts would answer, of course, Nikola Tesla. He was the one who invented a way to transmit energy wirelessly. And yes, I agree. Tesla was a genius. He could have accomplished much more if his scientific legacy and ideas had received proper recognition, and if his life had lasted a bit longer. However, this does not mean that the ancient Egyptians invented and used something similar, because in such a distant era, it's hard to imagine how someone could create a full-fledged wireless energy transmission system. What is especially concerning and raises questions is, if the ancient people really discovered a way to transmit electricity wirelessly, then why are there no archaeological evidence at all? Why haven't wires, cables, or devices capable of using or transmitting energy been found? Where is all this infrastructure that should have managed such a powerful system? Why haven't any traces of it been discovered so far? After all, if ancient people possessed such technologies, they probably would have left at least some signs of these devices. Or perhaps all our assumptions are just fantasies, based on misunderstandings and mistaken guesses, hiding behind the mysteries of ancient monuments. Well, since everything happened through the air, and something was moving or functioning with the help of this device, I'm referring, for example, to some technological system that raises many questions. What's interesting is what exactly it powered or how it provided energy. That's where the most mysterious and also most strange questions begin. For instance, I sometimes contemplate the theory that the pyramids are giant energy installations. It's a hypothesis that I find quite intriguing, even fascinating. I even have a book on this subject. It lies on my desk. It's part of a series about the mysteries of ancient civilizations, which I have not yet fully read. Still, this idea attracts me. It seems to be incredibly interesting and, at times, quite logical despite its fantastical nature. But the main problem remains the question, why is such a gigantic mechanism needed at all? What exactly are they trying to power, or what is it used for? There are many options, but none of them clearly match what we know or can imagine. For example, as far as I know, practically no modern technologies or artifacts have been found that could indicate the presence of such systems. No lasers, no mobile phones, no modern energy sources. And although technological advancements have long moved far ahead, there is still no material evidence to support such theories. One should apply the principle of simplicity, known as the razor of Occam's razor. Do not complicate explanations without necessity. You have probably heard that during a scan beneath the pyramids, some coils or spirals appeared to be tangled. Well, I also came across very strange things that might be no less astonishing or even more mysterious than the entire story of energy installations. For example, in an old biblical book published by Cassell, dating back to the 18th or 19th century, there was a particular feature. In this case, there is only one thing to say: don't be foolish. It is these sorts of things that fuel my concern, the widespread ignorance in science and technical knowledge. Very often, honest, genuinely interested people fall into the trap of simplicity and inexperience, because their upbringing or education did not prepare them to conduct in-depth, thorough investigations and to critically evaluate information. Take, for instance, the beginning of the video I saw. Have you heard that coils were found under the pyramids? This woman apparently simply heard something similar on TikTok or another short-form platform and thought it was truly incredible. She likely did not watch an official press conference or read professional research conducted by specialists, and I am not blaming her for that. Unfortunately, many people today operate this way, nourished by superficial information and unreliable sources. It seems astonishing to me that the responsibility for delving into complex scientific issues and explaining them to the general public lies exactly with those who popularize science. This is not really the concern of the ordinary audience or unprepared individuals reading professional articles, often full of numerous technical terms and specific jargon. It is the task of experts, communicators, scientists, and educators to make knowledge accessible, engaging, and easy to understand for ordinary people. These professionals should translate academic information into an engaging and easily digestible format so that people can grasp the fundamentals of modern scientific discoveries and achievements. When such educational outreach is lacking, its vital function is often filled by enthusiasts of conspiracy theories and alternative views who transform complex scientific facts into sensational, often distorted, or even fantastical stories. As a result, instead of straightforward and honest knowledge transfer, a situation arises where imagination and speculation take on a dominant role, leading society to develop distorted perceptions of the subject. Take, for example, the woman in question. You shouldn't blame her personally because, frankly, she most likely has little to no substantial experience or deep understanding in archaeology or history. Judging based on what she has heard is incorrect. It's not her fault. After all, she will receive information about new discoveries from existing sources, accounts that adhere to alternative or conspiracy theories. These sources often deliberately omit important details that could help her draw correct conclusions. Instead, they tell their own distorted and sensationalized version, depriving her of the key information necessary for a proper understanding of the situation. As a result, such accounts are very skillful at misleading even well-intentioned people, convincing them of complete nonsense that is far from the truth. In this particular case, the woman touches on the topic of the Bible, but I do not intend to discuss religious aspects. It's not within my responsibilities. What matters more to me is understanding that many religious people, despite their good scientific literacy, are capable of perceiving new knowledge and ideas. However, there is another factor called the halo effect. People raised in deeply religious families often develop a certain attitude towards science. Sometimes this manifests as distrust or even hostility towards scientific achievements, because they sometimes perceive religion and science as incompatible or contradictory. This opinion, formed early in life, can influence their perception of information even in adulthood. Therefore, when news or discoveries related to scientific or historical contexts appear, some tend to interpret them through the lens of their religious beliefs. For them, this becomes yet another confirmation of their faith, rather than an opportunity for reconsideration or acquaintance with new facts. I want to emphasize again that I do not intend to discuss religion. However, I find it a quite interesting example of how various conspiracy theories exploit the situation for their own benefit, misleading the public and deliberately withholding important information. In this case, it's a very exciting topic. It can be observed that the person in question cannot play a popular composition because, most likely, it is protected by copyright. Wait a moment. I just came across an image that indeed contains data. Now, this is quite interesting. The graphic, based on a new photograph taken with ground-penetrating radar, shows the depth and scale of the findings. In this regard, it's worth acknowledging that this individual has something to show. For the first time, we see how a researcher connects to actual raw data obtained with the appropriate equipment and supports their claims precisely with it. And he even presents a second example that confirms his conclusions. We asked artificial intelligence to reanalyze these data in order to better understand their tilt angle and parallax effect. Afterward, the AI concluded that such samples could not have arisen naturally, which essentially hints at a possible artificial origin of the detected structures. That's how it is. The project dedicated to the Great Pyramid provided the original image published yesterday, and it allows us to draw important conclusions. It should be noted that a very trusting attitude towards artificial intelligence is being applied here. The question is, why trust this AI so much at all? After all, it was the AI that told me it is safe to eat small pieces of stone, and something about American astronauts smoking, drinking, and having an intimate life, although I can no longer remember the details precisely. It is important to understand that AI learns based on data, and therefore, it needs a sufficiently large number of examples to recognize patterns more accurately. For instance, the presence of 2-kilometer cavities beneath the pyramid. In principle, I don't know exactly which model is being used here, or how many similar samples were employed for training. After all, I don't have full information about the platform used. But it's obvious that in this case, the focus is precisely on the power of artificial intelligence as such. And then there's an approximate scene, graphics created through photo manipulation or some other AI. Then, a fully generated image appears before the eyes, looking very crude and unrefined. This particularly strikes me. How cheap and unnatural all this looks, as if done hastily, creating an impression of clumsiness and incompleteness. So, I can give them credit because they at least showed some real data. However, they completely failed to analyze it. Instead, they simply declared, "Here are the data," and then stitched together a chain of sensational images that provoke interest. So, essentially, this is no different from the actions of others. And what do people say? The world is becoming more and more unusual, brother. But in reality, it has always been interesting, full of astonishing discoveries and unexpected events. However, I'm so disappointed by the fact that most people have already gotten used to receiving information in the form of simple, often distorted or implausible rumors, which leads to contempt for scientific knowledge, for science in general, and an eagerness to catch attention by any means. People are increasingly unwilling to listen to the truth, and more often extract unreliable information and false claims from the flow of data. That's why it is so important to have true professionals at science exhibitions, capable of conveying complex information in a clear and accessible language. I constantly talk about this. It is necessary to consult with specialists, scientists, and experts. It's not worth blindly spreading any kind of information or coming up with your own versions without understanding the subject. Has anyone asked whether Philip Ziba has uploaded any videos on this topic? What do you have for me, Philip? How are you planning to entertain me? Right at this very moment, it feels as though Philip has noticeably reduced his activity regarding so-called pseudo-archaeology. Of course, we must not forget that a couple of videos have still been released, and I have no intention of ignoring them. Moreover, I plan to revisit them and examine them more carefully. For now, I have deliberately held back from drawing hasty conclusions and wanted to give him some time, hoping that he might live up to my expectations. And I have truly set aside this time. But judging by the fact that at the time of creating this review, he had not yet published a video about the opening of this pyramid, and this is perhaps one of the most timely and intriguing moments, I find this commendable. At this point, I even want to sincerely praise Philip for such an act. It truly deserves attention and respect. I hope he will eventually reveal details about this discovery, and do so honestly, adhering to scientific rigor, avoiding any unfounded assumptions or distortions of facts. Let him not rush. The main thing is that his work remains honest and objective. Well, essentially, I have no more news or information at the moment. Honestly, even with my skeptical nature, it's sometimes pleasant to see such news when people discuss archaeological discoveries with interest and enthusiasm. That inner light that ignites within me when witnessing genuine passion for the ancient civilization's work is sincere. But this joyful spark quickly dims when you realize that such enthusiasm is actively exploited and manipulated by mass media aimed at spreading disinformation and by charming personalities who feed off these briefings. To call things by their proper names, mainstream media and those who manipulate and exploit them, those are the villains, if you speak frankly and honestly. Their eyes are solely consumed by greed and the desire to attract attention. In general, I want to emphasize an important point. If, while watching some of these videos, you might have thought, well, this is quite interesting, and even sent these clips to friends, believing everything literally, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault, nor a flaw in your critical thinking. My main goal in writing this review is to show how such videos skillfully and deliberately mislead viewers by using deception and omissions to impose their interpretation of events and facts. As a child, I had an experience that seemed straight out of a movie. Someone wrote the word stupid on the school corridor ceiling. Interestingly, they even misspelled it. Instead of the correct gloopy, it became ghoulie. This absurd discrepancy, to put it mildly, triggers a smile and understanding. Sometimes, to figure out who you are dealing with, it's better to pay attention to details, because they can tell you a lot. If needed, let me know. I can elaborate further or adjust the style to create an impeccably smooth literary text. Sometimes I ponder this, because such tricks are based on a classic joke. When someone says, "Hey, it says dumb up there on the ceiling," and the person, trusting that, looks up expecting to see the word. But finding nothing, they start laughing at their naivety and foolishness, thinking, "Wow, what a censored fool." I've always found this quite strange because most people tend to be excessively trusting. If you tell them something, their immediate reaction is often to take it at face value, without even considering that they might be being deceived. That's how these clever videos are designed. They supposedly show you that there is a word fool written on the ceiling, and then, through some trick or a blow to the head, prevent you from lifting your gaze to check. There's an important point here. I want to emphasize that it's not at all worth blaming people for believing such videos. These clips are intentionally created to mislead you and manipulate your perception. I also want to sincerely thank everyone who watched this video to the end, showing interest and trust in what is being said. For those who want to expand their knowledge, I highly recommend exploring the works of my colleagues. Such videos not only ignite a passion for archaeology, but also provide verified, documented information that can open up new horizons for you. Contrary to the words of one of the speakers above, it can be safely said that during their school years, a person acquires more knowledge than in any short time on TikTok, despite the illusions and appeal of short videos. If suddenly among your acquaintances there are those discussing similar videos, and you don't know how to start a conversation correctly because you don't speak that language very well, it's not a problem at all. You can simply forward this video to them or send one of my colleagues' clips. This will help them look at the situation from a different perspective and better understand what the essence of such cinematic effects is. It is important to remember that for an untrained person, even if they see obvious lies, it can be very difficult to withstand an information attack because they lack enough experience or knowledge to quickly understand and explain what the trick is. It is precisely for this reason that scientific thinking and scientific approaches will always face significant difficulties in combating pseudoscience. The latter doesn't require proof, and its claims are often based solely on emotions or faith. That's why it is so important to be able to distinguish credible information from false myths, even if this proves difficult, especially for those who are not familiar with the intricacies of scientific research. Sometimes people make statements that require only unilateral trust, in the sense that it's often enough just to hear them and accept them as true, without checking how accurate they are. In most cases, to verify such information, one has to engage in independent research and analysis. Therefore, I hope that after watching this video, you will develop a deeper understanding of this topic, as well as a desire to be a bit more attentive to similar issues in the future, to explore them more thoroughly, and to think critically. If you enjoyed this video sermon, I would be very grateful for your active participation. It can be as simple as leaving a comment or review, as well as sharing this information with your acquaintances. Such feedback ultimately helps support my work, allowing me to continue creating free educational content for those eager to learn. After all, the algorithms of the platforms where we post such materials respond favorably to audience engagement, such as likes, comments, and shares. This, in turn, helps educational videos reach a wider audience, which is very important. If you haven't finished your chores yet and haven't had time to say, iron or clean, why not watch some of my other videos? Especially if you're interested in truly fascinating and lesser-known archaeology. For example, my video about the Great Circle of the Earth and ancient geoglyphs found all over the planet. Feel free to share this video with friends whom you think might find this topic interesting, because sometimes it is such materials that genuinely spark people's curiosity and desire to learn more. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I also want to express special appreciation to my patrons on Patreon, thanks to whom all this is possible. As is customary, they get the opportunity to watch my videos before others, and their names will be immortalized in the credits of this video as a sign of my gratitude. If you wish to join those who support me, the link is in the video description. And finally, always remember to stay curious, constantly seek new knowledge, and not trust everything that is easily encountered on the surface. Especially Do not believe everything written or spoken based solely on superficial data or limited information. Let your life be filled with more questions, a fearlessness to ask them, and a willingness to find answers. And remember, it's not worth taking everything you hear or read at face value, especially if the source raises doubts. Now focus and keep going in the same spirit. Chances are everything will work out for you.